So while we wait for Amanda to kind of see if she can log in here, we got a question that says, when you create a medical provider contact, you input an address, but a lot of time providers have multiple addresses. So if I type that provider in for a different project, it will use that address, and the new project may have a client who went to a different facility. What do you say is the best approach for this?
Okay, so that's definitely a topic that comes up quite a bit when providers have multiple addresses. Now, I like to stray away from suggesting additional contacts um, or duplicate contacts, but if they're in different locations. If we're talking rather than maybe a billing address and a records address, if it's Hospital A on Main Street and Hospital A on Chestnut Street, I would then probably go ahead and create a card for each and utilize the nickname field. So, does that still show up when you're in the business?
No,
Oh,
I'll.
okay. Used to. You could also tag the
Oh
um
no, it does. You're right. It shows up.
okay, perfect. Yep. So what I've done in the past is I've created a card for each location solely for the purpose of doc gens because when you're coding out a doc gen, you don't want to have a doc gen with a address 1 and an address 2 or 2, 3. So you could create Dr. Donald Duck and maybe this one's at Magic Kingdom, but we also have Dr. Donald Duck at Disneyland. You could add that as the nickname, and it will show up when you go to search that contact. But then you know when you're generating those letters, you don't have to correct the address or delete an address from your letter that you don't need. Okay, I am in
Perfect.
our sandbox. So I will take this. Not sure what was going on there. It's because I haven't hosted free help in a while. Um, the internet
Yeah.
wanted to have some fun. So let me see. Let me see if I can pull our Q&A back up. Okay. That was a good question, Cody. I hope that helps. Just use that nickname feature. One other thing with those nickname fields in the contact card. I've seen people use this for initials as well. You can build out an initials section in the extra tabs in the contact card, but I've seen people use these for initials too if you want to include your paralegal's initials or your initials when you're drafting documents. Um,
How do you handle the management of the providers when there are so many mergers of medical providers?
hmm, that's a good one. So by mergers, I'm assuming that would mean this practice has been acquired by this practice, or those providers are then being updated into different facilities. I would manage that on the contact card level still. So in your contact cards, you can have note fields. You would just want to make sure to update, if their name is not changing, you would just want to make sure to update the contact information and make sure that that is correct. You could also apply a note here. So if I go in and change this address, maybe I'm removing the old address because bills won't go there anymore, or for whatever reason, you need to overwrite your address data, you could write a note in here and say, on this date, this provider merged with this provider, or they became part of this network. Those are all notes you could store within the contact cards, but I don't think you would need to create new ones. You could just use the cards you already have, but use some of those features that, frankly, people don't use too often, at least not that I see. The notes within the contact cards are really helpful.
The tags are also a great
Mhm.
option, depending on what the use case is. I know I have some firms that are like, I use do not use anymore as a tag. That way we can still maintain the data, but my staff is able to see not to use this contact card anymore. Or if there's a merger, you can put that as a tag as well.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Um,
Um,
in the settlement calculator section, there's a Word document for export. Where is the merge doc located for editing system wide, as I do not find it in the customs editor?
Yep. So that one wouldn't be in the customs editor. The settlement calculator section, it used to be, this is trivia for Filevine users who have been in the system for a long time. It used to be called the yield section, and Filevine revamped it, made a lot of really good changes, and then rolled out the settlement calculator. But the settlement calculator itself, that template is managed in FVDA, which is housed under Outlaw. If you're talking about the one that you hit, new scenario, and then it pulls in your project data and you can kind of real time make edits within that document itself, that's actually a .vine document. So that setup happens outside of the Filevine setup menu. And then the name is anonymous, so I can't address you specifically, but if you want to email us after free help, I can give you a little bit more information about editing the settlement calculator that way, or we could just take a look at your current setup and help with some suggestions for how to make it a little bit better.
And if your settlement calculator, because everybody's template is different, right? Filevine is so customizable that you might call a section settlement calculator that is called something else to other people, or that they don't even have. So if your settlement calculator section is a collection section, you might be seeing a word export there. With any collection section that you have, whether it's insurance, medicals, liens, you have the option to essentially attach a report template so that it can extract the data from that particular client's collection section and export data. So that might be what you're also seeing if you're seeing that Word document for export. You have the option to do Word documents or Excel documents and export those within any given collection section. Amanda, if you don't mind going into the customs editor just so we can kind of show them. We might
Sure.
the
Yeah.
new sandbox, so we might not have any set up right now, but we can at least walk you through it. You're going to want to run your report first. For your collection sections, you need to run the report specific to the collection section first, and then you'll go into Customs Editor. You'll select your project type. You all shouldn't have this many orgs, or you
Yeah.
probably have this many templates either. Go into the free help one. It's at the bottom of the starred list.
Perfect.
And then if you scroll down to whichever collection section you ran that report. So again, let's say it was medicals. You just passed the medical
Oh,
section.
I always do.
I do too. Right there where Amanda just clicked, where it says show collection options, you'll have the ability to add a collection export. And again, you have to run a report, which is why you don't see anything here. We don't have any reports ran for this section. But once you do, you can attach that. It's going to pull whatever the template that you connected to that report and allow for in the actual project in the medical section right next to the printer icon, there'll be an Excel or Word icon, again, depending on which export option you chose. Within an item entry in the medical section, there's a field for charges and amounts that displays the total amount due in the upper right-hand corner when viewing all items. And at the top
Mhm.
of the section, there's a running total. How do you get that set up for a new section? Great question.
Same
It's right.
spot.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Yep, it's in this same spot. So when you are in the collection section setup, you'll have to hit this little plus symbol, show collection options. I never talk through that when I'm showing it because it's second nature now. I'll just click it open, but you do have to expand that open. And then these drop down selections here are where you can designate what shows up in the left field, main field, in the right main field. You can also do your default sorting order, but here, if you are using those balance fields for your collection section, you can hit show total, and that's where you get the overall total in the top of the section as well. But if you needed to set that up in a new section, it would just be under your collection section options.
I'm muted. This option is only available in collection sections. You're not going to have the same option in a static section or even a built-in section.
Yes, true. So if we look at, let's see, case summary, there are no additional, we just go straight into adding fields. And then for built-in sections, there's no field map even. It's just letting you know it's there. This section is built in. Filevine's already built it for you. But for your normal custom sections, there are no other options there.
Other questions, we can always dive into,
Awesome. Good deal.
yeah. We can always dive into things that we've seen come up.
Yeah. Or we could add a quick, well, if we want to walk through the report builder, do a quick little export, we could do that. Or let's see. No other questions? These have been good ones. Let me see if there's anything from our previous questions I might want to expand on. Okay. Hey, Aylin. All right. Well, oh, is there an auto naming feature in Filevine? Such as year, month, date, date. There aren't, let me be careful how I say that. I don't want to say there's no auto naming filter. If you're trying to apply that date format, maybe to a doc gen, there are ways that you can manipulate the way that that date is displayed, and then you could pull the doc gen code into like a document title. Or something along those lines. But I'm going to go into DocGen setup and show you what I'm talking about. It would be called a field string modifier. So if we are, I don't know if we have, um, okay, we don't have any templates yet, but I'll open up this field list. And while I'm doing this, I'll talk through a few extra steps because if you haven't done DocGens in a while, the way that you view field replacement codes has changed a bit. If you've never done DocGens at all, this is how you start. So in the DocGen setup, once you make your section and widget selections, we have this little green button here, the field list. And when this opens, there are categories of different collections of fields. So we could grab replacement codes for just general project or org information, billing, chain dates. I am a creature of habit and I like to look at all of the fields. This does look a little overwhelming at first because it's every field that's available to you. But if you're just looking for specific data, you can grab that from any of these selections. I actually may just grab general because the date codes or the date modifiers, that's the word I was looking for, should be there. So we have our date codes here, today and today long, which either gives you just numerical or written out. But down at the bottom of this field replacement list, you have field string modifiers. So if you wanted to switch your view, it looks like this would be the one that matches the year, the month, and the date. You would do today as your field name. And then here under date format, you could just copy this modifier and put it in those curly brackets, and then it would make the date display in that way. Now, Filevine's built-in DocGen naming convention is still going to be there. It will still show you, like when you generate a document, it automatically date and timestamps it. But you could insert a date with a field string modifier to at least make your date display in the format you want to see. I saw another question pop up that may have already been answered. Oh, perfect. Aylin and Jasmine are on it. So, yes, we are happy to help you. If you just reach out, we can set up some time to talk through your needs a little bit more specifically and come up with a good plan to get you
Yeah.
set up.
I put both, and Aylin, I'm gonna introduce you as well. We have another Vine skiller kind of here. She's just gonna help field questions and provide insight. We all have such a great wealth of knowledge. So she's on here as well. You can email any of us and we will make sure that you get connected to the right person. Our emails are our first name at vineskills.com. So if you are like, I have no idea where to start. I thought I could do Filevine on my own, but it's not going well, or I just don't have the time to do it. I know how to do it. I just can't do it right now. Reach out to us. We can help. We'll connect with you to see what you're looking for and what a timeline and price would look like to kind of get those items done, or to even just train you on the system, right? Filevine has a lot of ins and outs, and so it's always helpful to have somebody that is an expert in the system to help you navigate through all of those ins and outs. So feel free to reach out and we'll definitely help you.
Yeah. While we're here, I'll show you all just a few of these other field modifiers. These are really helpful when you're doing, if you want to make your caption capital, you can apply things like capitalize. It'll make everything uppercase no matter what. Um, Cool things you can do with characters if you just wanted to pull maybe the last four of someone's phone number, or if you have a driver's license field and you don't want to display the whole thing, you can type these in. But it is a little different than our normal field replacement codes. They still live within those curly brackets. You'll just add a horizontal line. Nope, that's vertical. That a vertical line and your filtering modifier right after that. All right, let me close out of here. Do the DocGen field codes work on Excel also? I tried using these field codes for an export template on one of my reports and it wasn't pulling the info. Hmm.
So for reports specifically, it's pulling in whichever columns that you have in that report. We can kind of walk you through how to manage an export template. The DocGen merge fields are only going to work for documents because the DocGen fields basically pull all of the options in Filevine. Reports don't do that. Again, they're only going to pull the fields that you have in there. So it will throw an error message because the system, when you're running a report, is looking for whichever columns that you put in there. If you added more replacement fields than you have in that report, it's going to throw an error. But Amanda will kind of walk you through how to edit those templates in a report.
Sure, yeah, I'll show you how to make a report export. Now, if you're trying to code out something else, there's two things that I tried to create a custom report and in the title include the date of incident. Okay, yes. So the export templates, I don't know that you can use field replacement codes in report names. But with those export templates, like Jasmine said, you are kind of limited to just what columns exist. Now, we could try. That's actually, I'm pretty interested to see if we could make it work, but um, I'll show you how to adjust the, where's our free hub? There it is. I'll show you how to adjust the export template. And then if you're working on an export report that is going to function more as like a report you're using for case reviews or case meetings, there you could potentially get into a very, very simple report fusion. And I say simple because it sounds like it wouldn't need to be formatted too far outside of that standard report, but you would have the ability to pull in a little bit more DocGen type codes. I'm going to create a list of medicals here just because earlier we were in customs editor and we were looking at collection exports. So what I'll do for this one is we'll look at creating this export template for this report, but then I'll back up a couple questions and show you how to apply this report as a collection section export for the med section. So we have our medical section report with our basic columns over here. I'm just going to pull our project name up to the top. We have our final balance due. I'm going to add in a few fields. So I'm going to do provider full name. And I don't like scrolling over here. I'm a big fan of the quick select. If you know what field you're looking for or what you want to include in this report, it's a lot faster to just start typing the name of that field. It'll pull up. If you don't see it come up, toggle on display related data columns. Okay, I'm just gonna roll with this one so that we can get to the export portion. Skip over criteria, but if anyone wants me to go back to criteria, we can. And let
A
me
note
make sure.
here in Report Builder, sometimes this run report does take a little while. Be patient. If you leave this screen and it'll kick you back to run report, can mess things up. So just let the report run fully, see the data, and then if you need to go back to choose criteria or add another column, do that once it's fully run.
Yes. Same thing when the report does run and you're saving it. It may take a minute or so for that name change to apply in the background, but it's working.
You can always open another tab, work in
Yeah.
that other tab if you, I usually keep a project open when I'm doing report builder just so that I can see the names of the fields. Sometimes I think I know what they
Yep.
are and I could be very wrong. And when you're adding the names in, or even when you're using criteria, it does require like specifics. Or if I'm running a report and trying to get a specific users list of projects, I like to find their exact username so that I know that that's correct and accurate. And so just keep that in mind as you all kind of do report builder. There are some small little nuances there. Um, and for those of you that maybe haven't run reports frequently, while we wait for it to kind of run, reports are personal. So if I run a report, I'm the only one that's going to see it unless I choose to share it out. So if you all are like, oh, I'm not able to see this, that's the reason. If you are going to do an export and you want everybody to be able to see that export, right? That Word document or that Excel, you have to share the report with them. On your view, you're not going to know any difference, right? Because you're going to see that you created it. But if you don't share it out with the other people in your org, they're not going to be able to see that template in there and utilize it.
Yes, that's a very good thing to call out because that comes up more often than not when report or when section exports are created and the report's not shared, and then the person who created it is swearing up and down, yes, I can run it, I see it, it's there. You can see it, but no one else can until you share it with them. One other thing on reports, just while you saw on the report builder, I didn't talk through these steps, but I did choose our free help template at the bottom as our project template. And then I had to select list of medicals as the report that we're building for this. When you are running reports on collection section data, or you want to see collection section data in those reports, you do have to report on that specific section. Your more generic or broad reports like list of projects can give you a lot of static details, and it can pull some totals or averages or counts from collection sections. But if we wanted to look at all of the providers, all of the billed amounts, their treatment dates, we would need to run that list of medicals report, very similar to the limitations you run into with vitals. Those collection sections keep their data pretty sectioned off. So if you want to access that in a report in a doc gen, you'll need to make sure that you are either generating the document within that section or reporting specifically on that section to have more fields to choose from.
And something else I'll add to that is that it is per project type. So if you have, let's say, a project type for your work comp separate from your PI or your mass torts, you will have to build a report on each of the project types separately.
Yes. Also, good things to note just when it comes to reporting. My report is still oh, there's no matching data. So I'm just going to save this as list of medicals, free help. Here's what I was talking about when I save this report. It updates in the background, but my box hasn't gone away yet. You don't have to hit save more than once. Once you see that name update in the background, your report has been renamed. If you hit save more than once, you will likely end up with multiple copies. You can archive those, but just give it a moment. The dialog box will close out. This report has saved, and then we could look at some of these other options.
And as far as your report title, if you do add criteria to a report, highly recommend that you add that criteria to your report title. You do want these to be somewhat specific so that you know what data that you're getting from this. If you plan to use this as a collection section export, like we've been talking about, you may also want to add that to the report title. It's a visual for you so that you know not to archive that, or that if you do archive it, it's going to impact that collection export. You also know exactly what data. You're probably going to run multiple reports in any given section. And so having some of those specifications is going to be really helpful for you all down the line.
Yes, definitely. It helps your report list stay more organized. You'll know what's in a fusion, what's just a report for you, or what may be tied to something a little bit more shared visibility for everyone. While this is thinking, I'm going to click back over here. Does anyone have any questions on the topic of reporting or even those section type differences?
There's a question for the in
Yeah.
negotiations or expenses. I keep getting the highest, lowest, or average. I
Uh-huh.
want the most recent offer date and an amount.
So with that, are those highest, lowest, or average? Want the most recent offer date and amount. If we're looking to do that in reporting terms, let me,
It might be hidden.
I think it may be because we might have our newer negotiation tracking in this. Yeah, we're tracking negotiations and insurance in this build.
I think our Darth Vader case might have a negotiations tab.
Yeah, let me go to Darth Vader.
The Darth Vader and Uber. Yeah.
Collection sections work a little bit different than static sections, the way that you're able to extract data or pull data. So keep that in mind as well.
They do work a little bit different. Now, if you were running a report, if we're wanting to look at this in terms of reporting, you could use criteria, um, or you could sort the report by the offer date. So you could run a report on your negotiation section in whole, have the date, have the amount. You would filter it down by offer as the negotiation type, and you could sort it to see the most recent offer and the amount. But being able to pull in the most recent negotiation amount as a vital, there are some pretty big limitations there. Jasmine and Aylin, I don't know if you have encountered a good workaround for that, but when trying to find those most recents, that's where it does get a little tricky, especially in terms of reporting. Um, in the build we were looking at, we have negotiations built into the insurance section. That's a slightly newer route I'm seeing people go with negotiation tracking, but it does kind of give you that list view. So your newest is at the top.
In
Let me,
any description section, you do have the ability to change the way that you're seeing those cards sorted. So that might also give you a better visual. When you're looking at the top, you can, yeah, filter by and then do ascending or descending, depending on. So this is sorting by carrier.
Mhm.
And so you can make a change to that to visually see it here. The collection sections, as I mentioned, pull data, or you can extract the data a little bit different. So if you're thinking about vitals or things like that, you are not going to be able to pull specific data into your vitals. It's averages, highest, lowest, totals. If you run a report and it's a list of projects, you are not going to be able to pull in any specific data. It is going to be averages, highest, totals for your collection section items. If you want specifics, you have to run a report specific to that collection section and then play with the criteria. There's a lot of criteria. It's impossible for us to kind of know the exact criteria, but you can always play with the criteria to make sure that it gets you kind of what you want. Or as Amanda mentioned, you can create a template that allows for you to use I use Excel for my templates over Word because then you can use Excel's filtering features and some of their other formulas to get you to where you need to go. And we offer, if you're like, I am not an Excel person, I have no idea how to do this, but there's tons of stuff that I would like to visually see in Excel in a different way. We offer advanced reporting services, so we can go in and create some of those reports for you, including that Excel template with all of the formulas that go well over my head. Somebody else does it, so don't worry. But that is kind of an option there.
yes, definitely. That'd be a good advanced reporting project. Our report did generate, so I'm going to switch my screen share so that we can see my whole desktop, and I'll show you how to customize the export template. So when you click on export options, we'll just generate the default template for Excel. While this default template is generating, along the lines with Fusion, can those be auto reports? I don't believe you can make a Fusion an auto report. Just because the way that they're generated is a little bit more manual. So your reports you run in the report builder and then you can set up a schedule there. There is no current schedule for like running a doc gen at a certain time on a certain date or automatically generating a report fusion. You can set up notifications if you run it and you want to know when it's done, but currently I'm not aware of a way to auto schedule a report fusion.
For
So,
security like that, sorry, just quickly, for suggestions like that, where you're like, it would be really nice if Filevine did this, you all have the option to submit your feedback to Filevine, and we encourage that. That question mark in any project that you're in, or even if you're not in a project, along that top banner, you can go to share your feedback. You can either start typing in what you're looking for, or you can open up the portal altogether and search to see what other people have added in there, and then you can upvote. Filevine does look at this to kind of determine what they're going to be releasing, what they should be working on. So if you add something in there, once it's open for voting, send it out to the rest of your firm, send it out to your other friends that may be using Filevine so that they can upvote it, and Filevine can kind of see that this is a feature that several people want, and then they can start releasing those types of things.
yes, and there are great suggestions. Some of the questions that we've seen today would be good suggestions. Some of these are great suggestions as well. Easy pronoun coding. If you've done doc gens and you want to include possessive pronouns, you know that that can be a little bit tedious. So having these suggestions here, you voting on them, Filevine does listen to you, and that's where A lot of the features we've seen rolled out recently have come from, it's been Filevine's community. So definitely worth going to the question mark and submitting your feedback. It is not like a bucket. When I've said that before, we hear, no one's going to read that or they're not going to do anything with it. They actually do. They devote time to going through those and looking at the suggestion list. So here's our export template. And you can see they are using field replacement codes, but I can't just go in and add my own. So if you did want to include that incident date code in your report title, you would need to include it in the report itself. You can pull in some data that's not on the report necessarily. The only thing I've really had success doing that with has been the project name. So the curly brackets and just name will pull in the case name. But outside of that, you are pretty limited to what's on the report itself. Unless you're tiptoeing into fusion territory, then it does kind of expand those options a little bit. Each of these rows has a begin repeat and an end repeat. That lets you know this data is going to continue repeating. But if you wanted to add in to your export, maybe a total, we want the total balance due. I'm just going to go here and sum my total row with this blank row underneath. What that's going to do is grab all of those repeating totals, and then down here, I'll have my total final balance due. This might look kind of small, so sorry about that. And then I'll just save my template. And back here in our export options, I'll upload the template that I just edited. It'll take a moment. And when I view this report, you'll still be able to run this report as any Filevine report. When you view it in the report builder, it's not going to show any of the changes you make in Excel. Those only show when you export the report and you're looking at it in your Excel window.
One thing I will note, if you are going to utilize collection section exports like we were talking about, there are some things that you are probably going to want to shift in the template. So like the name of the project, if you keep it as is, that name is going to repeat for every provider entry that you have. And so if you do make an update, right, to say, hey, I don't want this field repeating, but I want the one right next to it repeating because that's actually where my collection data starts, you're probably not going to want to run this report in Report Builder because once you edit or change that, this template is going to only show one project name, but it will still show all of the provider info for all of your clients that show up in this report. So keep that in mind. That's why sometimes that designation of like collection export is also helpful so that you know this is not going to be accurate if I generate the template from here. It's only accurate if I generate it from that specific collection section.
All right. So I updated the template. I'll show you how we go apply that to the section, and then we can run a test in there. While we're here, under your export options, you have your auto report settings. So you can set up an auto report for yourself only. Jasmine called this out earlier. Reporting in Filevine is individual. So I can only set up an auto report for myself. You'll want to share this report, so I'm going to share it with our Vine Skills org so that other people can go in and also view that export report. But here, if we no longer need this, you can archive it. You do have the option on the select report screen as well. There will be a share button, so it looks like an open box with an arrow pointing out, and archive, which is that banker's box. You can do both of those from the report builder screen. I'm gonna pop here real quick just to the run report. and call this medicals export. And we'll save that.
Saving a report that you've made changes to overrides what you've previously done. Save as creates another report. So if you're
Mhm.
using a standard, like you're like, okay, I have a report and I have all of these columns and I want different variations of this. I'm going to add different criteria to it. You're going to want to save as each time that you make a change. Again, if you save, it's going to override whatever you were doing.
Yes, which in this case we want to do so that it's named correctly, but going forward, if I just wanted to make a copy of this, I would have frustrated my efforts there. I'm going to see if that's available for us, so I'll hop here into Customs Editor. And then we'll go to our medical section, which I didn't scroll past this time. Go to our collection options, and then when you select add, the reports that are available to add will show up here. So if you have any other reports on other sections, they wouldn't show up as a report that you could add to your medical section export. But because we already have reports built off of the medical section, those are going to show up as an eligible report. Now, if I had several different versions of these, that's where it would be very important for me to make sure that I was calling this my med section export so that I didn't accidentally include my treatment report or my outstanding medical records report or my bills report. I would want just the one that's giving me the summary of this section. So if you do have several different reports built on a collection section, that naming is very important. But we've added that template here. So now if I refresh in our grizzly bear project, from our medical section, we should see a little Excel icon in the top right once we've added some.
And just as a reminder for those of you that maybe don't know, if you're making any changes in the advanced tab and you have a project open, refresh the page so that it tracks your changes. That's what you saw Amanda do. The reason for that is because the system needs a reboot, basically, or not a reboot, but any open tabs that you have need a reboot to track those changes.
Okay, I'm going to give us a little bit of data. So now that we have a few providers in this section, here's our export. All you do is click on that, it will generate, and then you'll have that clickable link. You can then open up and view your collection export. It's going to think for a moment.
If you have multiple export templates, that Excel will be a dropdown. If you have a Word template, it will show you a Word template and an Excel template, again, via a dropdown for you to be able to kind of select which one that you'd like.
So this was before I removed our begin repeat, but you can see it's got our project name here, the balance, the provider, and then it's giving us a total down at the bottom. If you haven't run reports in Filevine very often, or if you just aren't using them very much, it is helpful to create a couple good base reports for yourself. The auto report setting or feature is really great as well. When you get those reports emailed to you, they still show up this way. So your project name, when you include that in a report in Filevine, is clickable. So you can open that project up from clicking that link in the Filevine report. It's pretty helpful if you have something like a case list or my example was medical records follow-up. When I worked at a law firm, I had a outstanding medical records request report that I had coming to me every Monday and Wednesday so that I could just try to do some follow-ups. And having that hyperlink there made it really easy to just open that project up, get to work, and then continue down the line. So I would definitely suggest, if you haven't spent too much time in Report Builder, come up with a couple good reports for you or that you could share with your team just to give you a little bit of insight on those projects without having to go project by project every time. We do have about 10 minutes left, so any other questions?
Amanda, while we wait for questions, would you mind going over? I think our sandbox has some new visual features that clients can look for if they're not yet activated in their account, including the new feed and the new tasks and Project Hub. I think all three of those got some facelifts. And if you all are not using them, would recommend that maybe you start, especially if you're newer in Filevine. To me, it's much easier to learn with what you're going to have to do than try to learn what's current and then also switch over to what's new.
Yes. Yeah, so we do have the new Project Hub here. I don't know how to show you the old Project Hub, but you may be used to seeing this look a little bit more blocky. The labels across the top look a little bit different. They pulled archived out for you, and instead of clicking down on more now, you can just toggle on show archived. Same thing if you're pinning projects, which if you need to pin a project, you should be able to click on it, and actually don't know where the pin is on the new Project Hub, but there we go. Thanks, Jasmine.
Mhm.
You can pin your projects. So you have your My Projects label, which will show you any projects you're subscribed to or an admin on, or however you designate that. But if there are some that you want to pin, you now have a pinned only toggle that you can turn on, and it's going to narrow that down a little bit for you as well. If you are a Vine Skills optimization client or you've ever worked with us before, you may have our training and resource project. I always suggest pinning that one just so it's easy to find. Here under My Projects, you have a few filters here. Like I said, you could look for projects where you subscribed, where you're an admin, maybe just ones where you're a primary. But this new Project Hub just makes it a little easier to filter down based on what you're looking for. And then you also have your sort here. You can sort by your phase, your org, your last activity. That's still over here on the left. Before I jump into tasks, we did get another question. If I label a contact as a medical provider and I have selected the type of provider in the drop-down menu, is there a way to search for a specific type of provider from all the ones that would be in our contact list across all projects? Would that be done in reports? So that could be done in reports. That would be an easy way to do it. You should also be able to search in your address book. So if we choose our Vine Skills org, we can filter this down by contact type. So maybe we want to see, okay, clients only. You can toggle on that client filter. And then if you're with your contact type, yeah, you would be able to search by type in the address book.
You can do a search deeper, and that searches a little bit more areas in Filevine. What I would recommend, I think, over that is instead of maybe using a drop down, you can report on a drop down, but tags might be a really great solution for that. It's
Yeah.
something you can easily visually see without having to like go into it, but you can also search. You'll see a search bar right next to where it says contact types where you can search by those tags and add those into the contact card as well. But you are able to report on that kind of details page within the contact card as well.
Yeah, that's kind of, I was reading through your question a little bit. I would definitely suggest using tags, to Jasmine's point, because you could narrow down looking at all your medical providers and then specifically going into maybe their focus through a tag. I'm going to show you our task list right now. So our filters have moved on the new task view. They are on the left-hand side of the screen. And then it does allow you to search for tasks assigned to other users. It's going to keep that due on or before today. And then this one's also filtered to just showing incomplete, but you can adjust that as well.
Little filter menu just above these right here that has a ton of filters, I think more than I anticipated in here, but it does allow you to kind of narrow stuff down, use those tags as a way to search through these. And again, super nice that you can search other people's tasks so that you don't have to like always have those pinned to your feed or don't have to try to remember to go into a project to kind of see where folks are at. You can track their progress here, follow up, things like that.
Yep. I don't know for certain, but I am willing to bet this was a suggestion um in Filevine's feedback area because that's a request I have heard for years now. Why can't I see what other tasks are open if it's like a shared project or I'm a managing paralegal, I need to be able to see other people's tasks. So they listened and you have that now in the new tasks.
And if you're not seeing it, look for the bar at the top that has this, hey, opt in. The orgs that I've been in recently, I've been toggled on without me having to do it. But if you don't see that, reach out to your account exec, or if you're working with us, let us know that that's something you want, and we can kind of figure out when it will be rolled out for your org.
All right.
Perfect. And hopefully everybody's already seen the new feed. That's been around for a little while, but it does allow you to track phone calls now. So I know that, even just 6 months ago, folks had collection sections where they were tracking that. And now you can track that directly in the activity feed. You can also track client portal messages. So for those of you that are using the client portal, those now come into the activity feed as well with that new activity. And I think one thing that I really like about the new activity feed, when you're in a project, you can pop out the activity feed items so that you can go into other sections while not having to like save what you were working on, go find the info, and then go back to the activity feed to re-update that activity item. So definitely play around. Hopefully you all have a test project or a project that's not really connected to clients' information so that you can play around with these new features. Right, it looks
I
like
do also, yep, I see Cody's question. Created a task flow action button that when pressed creates an auto task. When I activate the task flow, should the task appear in the task section? I'm having issues with it not doing so. Yes, you should see the task if it's assigned to you. Um, it could be, there could be a few reasons why you may not see it in the tasks immediately. If that auto task is assigned to a role that maybe is assigning it to someone else, you might have to search it under the person assigned to that role. Um,
you might also want to check the settings. When you create a task, you have a few options for how they trigger. The first is when another um, task is completed. And so if that is what you have selected, it's not going to trigger based off of you pressing that button. It's waiting for another task to be completed before it kind of creates. You should also check the created date. If
mhm.
and you said create 2 days after I press this button or after this other task populates, you're not going to see it until 2 days after that's happened. If you're like, nope, all of those things check out, feel free to reach out via email and we can try to help diagnose it, or we can connect you with Filevine support to kind of dive in.
We'll try to troubleshoot a little further with you. All right.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Amanda, Aylin, thank you so much for joining and providing all of your expertise to folks here today. As a reminder, we are a month-to-month service that helps with launches and optimization. So for those of you that have been in Filevine, you're like, we're already launched, we can help create reports, create these items, help you navigate through. Most of our team was either former or legal staff, attorneys, paralegals, case managers, otherwise. Half of us worked at Filevine previously, so we have a wealth of kind of experience and knowledge in the system, and we rely on each other to kind of help that. So you have multiple brains tackling all of the issues that you all kind of have. So You can choose to work with us for a month or more. You just reach out to us again. It's our first names at vineskills.com. We'll get you connected with whoever you need. We do these free help sessions every week, so hopefully you all do join us in a future free help session. Next week is finance skills, which I think is going to be great for those of you that are doing anything financial in Filevine. Highly recommend attending that. We do record all of these sessions and they will be up on our website. You can view past sessions, sign up for our newsletter so that you get updated and reminded about these things. We have a lot of really great initiatives that we kind of put out. Follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already. We post updates there as well. And if you all need anything again, feel free to reach out and we'll get you connected. Hopefully you all have a great rest of your week. And thanks again. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys.